Welcome everybody. My name is Eden Bao. I'm from Eden Bao Photography. I'm excited to be part of the Creative Artist Collection, the online editing library for photographers. Just a little bit about myself here. I am a maternity and newborn photographer based out of Seattle, and I serve clients from both Greater Metro Seattle and Vancouver, BC. Been in the business since 2011. You can visit my website and blog at www.edenbaophotography.com or Facebook, Eden Bao Photography. I'm also on Instagram under Eden Bao and Google Plus, Eden Bao Photography Seattle. I am primarily known for my maternity work. Here's a sample of my images here, and I use a combination of outdoor shooting. I shoot outdoors, I shoot in the studio, I shoot natural studio, and I also shoot with strobes in the studio, as well as off-camera flash when I need it outdoors. So a lot of this is a good sample of it. For example, here, this one was shot outdoors with off-camera flash. This one also outdoor with off-camera flash. This one outdoor with off-camera flash, and so is this one as outdoor with off-camera flash. This was shoot at in the studio with strobes. This one in the studio with strobe. This is natural light in the studio. This one was off-camera flash on location, and this was natural light. No strobes or anything, just natural light. So all that, I always believe for professional photographers, we should know how to photograph light, to use whatever tools available to us, whether we do outdoors or with strobes. We should learn how to photograph with beautiful light and know how to capture it straight in the camera. All right, so moving on to what we're doing here is we're editing. This is the image I've chosen that we're going to edit. Here's the straight out of the camera before shot, and here's the straight out of the camera, after retouching Photoshop, the shot. Now this one is shot with natural light at the lighthouse in Discovery Park in Seattle. It's one of the very popular places. I often see quite a bit of photographers there, and with good reason. It's this gorgeous lighthouse. I discovered a really nice lighthouse with a mountain in the background. Just absolutely stunning place. So here we are. We're shooting here. The look I'm looking for is a pastel, warm, high key, and neutral look. So a very feminine look that goes with this beautiful maternity model here. And let's continue. We will go over to Photoshop and ACR. Here we are. Okay, so again, this is straight out of the camera. This is what it would look like in the back of my camera. Now, Adobe Photoshop is a program, is an image processing program. So it reads many raw file formats. So for example, Nikon, it reads NEF. For Canon users, it's CR2. For Sony, it's SR2. And etc. etc. Now, each of these file format or each of these camera model makers formulate or rather store their images in the raw file differently. So Nikon would put their vibrance here, their contrast there, their clarity here, their colors there, and then Canon will have their own formula of how they store their information in their raw, and so does Sony. Now, when Adobe comes along, it reads only one way. It's programmed to read one way. So therefore, when it reads these file format, it's going to read differently than what it looks like in the back of your camera as it is supposed to be intended. So for Canon, it reads Canon so much better. So the color often comes out much nicer on Adobe than it does, for example, Nikon. I don't know what to say with Sony because I am not familiar with that brand. But I know for Nikon, many photographers report that it tends to be very green and yellow. Okay, so in my case, that is true. And what complicates the matter is it's kind of different with every Nikon model. So for D3S, it could be this much green with this much yellow, and then D700 would be a little less green and more magenta. It's kind of different. And so to complicate stuff, what Nikon recommends is you would open in the proprietary raw file program, and I can't remember what it's called, Capture One, I believe. I don't quote me on that. And normally that would be all right, except for it's one extra step. So for photographers processing in your office, you don't want to go through one program, open that up, and then having to export to Adobe. You wanted to get it all done through Adobe Photoshop and get it done at one seamless. So the quick band-aid solution would be is to have presets already set up in your Adobe Camera Raw, so that way you don't have to deal with the extra step. So for me, for Nikon D3S, these are my presets. So they're going to be different for everybody. Canon, you're not going to have, you probably won't need to use a lot of preset, but for other Nikon users, camera users, it's going to be different for everybody to get your image to look like what it's supposed to look like straight out of the camera. Okay, so these are, for watchers of the video here, just ignore these numbers. Just pretend that they are whatever number that you come up with your preset to get your images straight out of camera, and then we will start from here. Okay, so one other thing I want to mention is that the Camera Raw is the program I use instead of Lightroom. Lightroom and Camera Raw does the same thing. They have the same sliders. Now what Lightroom has is the catalog ability plus all these other jingles, I guess, extra. It can export to blogs, and it handles social media better. But most powerful is the cataloging. So because Lightroom features is not what I need to use, I prefer sort of a really basic Adobe Camera Raw, just a basic program to do what I want to do, and that is to adjust my raw file before I export to Photoshop. So I prefer Camera Raw for this particular reason, because it's a simple, well, relatively speaking, simple program compared to Lightroom. So that's what I prefer. So here is Adobe Camera Raw. Again, Lightroom users will have the same kind of adjustments, so you can easily follow along. And I will start with this image and start turning it into the edited in image that I've showed you before. So we'll start with color here. So not color, I meant temperature. So temperature, I like this image to be a little bit warmer, so I'm going to just boost up the temperature to about 6250. That looks pretty good. Maybe a little warmer, 6300. Tint, just a bit to plus 15. And exposure, she's a little bit underexposed, and that's because she's this shot is taken with backlight with the sun behind her. So we're going to increase the bit of exposure just to have her skin. Now I'm exposing this for her skin, and a little later I'll show you how to adjust the exposure so that your image will come out beautifully. So in the meantime, I'm just looking at her skin here. Her skin here, just going to raise the exposure a little bit. And she's looking pretty good here. All right, contrast. Boosting up the contrast. Because normally when we backlight, it's flat lighting, generally speaking. So you have to add a bit of contrast into your image to make it look pretty good here. So I'm going to boost up to about 30. Okay, highlight minus 24. Highlight looks pretty good. I'm going to turn on my highlight indicator here. Okay, so what this little button here in Lightroom users will have that too. It's going to show you where the blown out area is going to be. So you can adjust your highlights, right, and not lose data. All the red spot here means that you're losing data here. Now I'm not going to be too concerned with this, and I will explain that later. I am more concerned with her skin color. Okay. So her skin color is what I am concerned about, and I'm going to raise that just a little bit to increase her skin color. Her at plus 40, contrast 30, shadows. Again, this is from my preset to adjust my Nikon images. Whites at minus 10. and blacks at -14, that looks good. Now these clarity at -5 and vibrance at +20, that's just from my Nikon preset. So I'm going over here, I'm going to adjust the highlights down a bit. And that's going to reduce all that red area here. Bring it down to about -25, 27. That's good. Again, I'm not going to worry about these just yet. I'll fix that later. Let's go over to, now these are again presets from my Nikon. I won't adjust anymore. So sharpening, I do sharpen in RAW just a little bit. So my settings here are 50, radius 1.1, detail 25, masking 65. And I seldom change this. It's pretty much those numbers for every images that I edit on. Now luminance, noise reduction. This is the noise reduction part. So when I shoot outdoor in particularly, especially when I open wide and backlight, I'm going to have some grain. Just because we are, the skin in particular is underexposed. So to reduce noise, you can use a noise reduction, but you know, Adobe Photoshop does a pretty darn good job here. So I'm looking at the shadow part of her, the arms, and just looking if there's any yucky noise that I need to reduce here. It's looking pretty good. I mean, I can boost this up to about 40, and it will just take that noise right out of her arm. Beautiful. It looks really good, and it's going to print just gorgeous. All right, so if there's any color noise, you would fix it here under colors. But because I don't see any, I'm just going to leave that at 10. Okay, so look at all that highlight here. So we can we'll fix that later. So I'm here at the HSL, the hue, saturation, luminance, and from here I'm going to go right to the luminance tab and adjust. Again, I'm adjusting for a skin color. Okay, so under luminance, because she's fairly, again, underexposed, I'm going to bump that orange up a bit to what I think looks good, and I think about 35, 40 looks pretty good here. So I'm just going to reduce and have a look at her. She looks pretty good. Okay, so the yellows, I'm going to leave that alone. That was just part of my preset here for the Nikon. Saturation here, again, if the skin's oversaturated, I tend to desaturate here. I also desaturate in Photoshop as well, but I'm just going to lower the desaturation a bit. On the skin, in the orange, at -9. Now yellow, as I mentioned, Nikon D3S tends to give me a very yellow cast in my RAW file. So this is why mine is 60. It's usually my preset number, a default. But sometime if I want to reduce a bit more yellow, I'll just bring that up to about 70, 67, 70, around there. That looks pretty good to me. Okay, hues I don't do anything about. Split toning, don't do anything there. Now for chromatic aberration, normally this was shot wide open using the 85mm. That's my favorite lens to shoot for maternity. I'm close enough to direct the client, and plus I can open wide open to f1.4. Now the problem, of course, with opening wide is that you have this problematic chromatic aberration. So that's easy to remove in Adobe RAW. And it's better if you can catch it, to remove it here than it is to do it in Photoshop. It's a pain in the butt to do in Photoshop. So what I'm going to do is zoom in to see if I have any chromatic aberration. That happens when we shoot in a light background, normally in wide open with a light backlight behind her, which in this case the sun is behind her. So I'm looking to see if I need to fix any of that chromatic aberration, and I don't see any actually. So that's pretty good. So I don't touch anything there. And then we're pretty good to go. Now I am going to open this as a smart object. The reason why is I want to be able to go back to Adobe Camera Raw and adjust from the raw file. Okay, so to do that, I'm going to hit, for PC user, Shift, and see when I hit Shift, this button becomes Open Object. See, if I let go of Shift, it becomes Open Image, and I can't remember what Mac is. I think Mac is Control, but for PC users, Shift, Open Object, click on that. And that's going to open my image from Adobe Raw as a smart object. And you'll see this in action in a few minutes here. I'm just going to rename this background. Okay, I'm going to copy this image because I am going to add a, so to copy it, I have an action here, smart copy. So basically it's just a copy of this and I added a mask onto this. Now for smart copy, so now what I'm going to do is fix that highlight that you saw earlier that was in the sky here and some of the really bright highlight in the, on her hair, for example. So to do that, I'm going to double click on this here. It's going to take me right back to Adobe Raw where I can adjust it. See, so it's gotten back to Adobe Raw where I have this. Now what I'm going to do is darken the sky just by a little bit. I'm going to pink this up, the sky. So to do that, I'm going to raise the temperature to maybe about 7,200. See how warm the sky is? I'm just looking at the sky only. I'm not looking at anything else, the building, the ground, the maternity model. Just looking at the sky. And then I'm going to pink it up by increasing the tint. Just a little bit. And reduce the exposure. So let's bring that down. So look at that. So look at this red area that Adobe highlighted that's blown out. It's now just getting reduced. And then the sky is turning a bit pink because I'm reducing the exposure. It's looking pretty good. I can actually increase this a bit more to get a little bit more pink. Maybe reduce this. See that sky turning a little bit more pink here? And it's starting to look really good here. Bring the exposure down a bit more. And I think it looks where I want it to look like. Okay. So when I'm done, I click OK. And it's just opening here. Okay, sorry about that. Email question. Okay, so right here, I'm going to invert that mask to a black mask. Right, and then I'm going to use a white brush. Check for a soft brush. Let's increase my size to about here. Oops, that's too big. About here. And then I'm just going to brush the sky in. Going to come up pretty close to her. Okay, so I want some of that pink sky to show through. And I actually like some of that rooftop, some of the pop of the color here. So that kind of brings the nice red rooftop in. So bring, again, white brush. It's going to paint that right in. Okay, and then I'm going to remember to brush that off her face. And to tell, I hit channel here, click on that, and just have a look where I've, if I bled anywhere to fix that. Okay, especially around here. Hard brush. That looks pretty good. There, so I got my beautiful pink sky going on here. I'm just going to flatten this image. Okay, so then I'm ready to go and edit here. Okay, so one thing I usually do now, I normally have an action that runs all my actions into one action, and it just runs through. So I go and check my email, surf my Facebook while that's running, and then by the time I get back, there's layers already. But I think for this purpose, it's nice to go through one by one to explain what's happening here. So normally what I do is first I do a fog, a sharpen and defog, and that just pops my images up a bit. So let me just look for here. So sharpen defog. Now this one is an action from Florabella. I used to back in the days when I bought so much actions. I didn't end up using quite a bit of her. She had a lot of action, but the one action I really like, this is from Florabella, is the sharpen and defog, and I've taken that and I've used that for all my images actually. So I really like that. So I ran that, and that just gives a bit sharp, adds a bit more contrast and pop to her. She just pops right out of the background nicely here. Okay, and from there I run Portraiture. So Portraiture is a plugin that you purchase, and once you purchase, these are my settings. You run it, it softens the skin. And warmth, just a little bit warm, +1, I hit OK. Okay, so it's at 100% of course, and I don't need it, I rarely need it 100%, usually 45% is good for me. I add so 45 opacity, and then I add a mask, and then mask that off her eyes, because you don't want portraiture on her eyes and lips really. So this is where I just added a mask, white mask. We'll use a black brush. Just take that right off her eyes here and her lips. Okay. And from here, I have this action called merge level mag, and what it does is it merges all these layers, and then it adds a color layer, a levels layer, and a hues layer. So I'll go ahead and run that, and I'll show you what that is. Okay, and that just adds so a color layer, a levels layer, which lightens it, just brightens it up a bit, and then a hue saturation, usually is for the skin, just to desaturate a bit more. So then from there, I usually adjust. Okay, and then from here, I will run I use this often, the Skin Add Blush. This one is an action from Sandra Bianco's Innocence collection, I believe. Her retouching collection. Now I can't remember which one it was, but there's a part where you do your retouching, add blush, you can make the hair pop, dodge the eyes, and etc. It's a really great collection. It's one of my favorite collections. And I often find that I do use blush often, so I just pulled that action out and incorporate that into my overall action. So blush is one of them. And then, let me see if I use what other action I would use here. Selective sharpening, shadows and highlight. So I'm going to run that. Just to add any highlights or shadows to my images. I'm also going to run a dust and scratch. And what that is if you have any spots in your camera or any minor acne on the client or any fray hair or etc. like that, usually the dust and scratch will take care of that. Actually, it's really easy. I just created that out. That's just a regular Photoshop filter. So I've deleted that dust and scratch layer, and I'm going to recreate that filter here. So to find that, under filter, under noise, dust and scratch. And I usually have it at radius 5 and threshold 4. So I hit OK. Okay, it's going to create that dust and scratch layer, and then I'll show you much later what it does. Okay, let's add a mask on that and then invert it. Okay, so I'm going to call this dust and scratch. Exactly what it is. I don't really have any fancy name for it, because otherwise I get confused and can't remember what it was for. Okay, and then my favorite is the dodge and burn. Basically, these are a couple of curves, layer 1 to darken, 1 to lighten, and then we're going to use that. Usually I use that to add to burn and dodge shadows where I need it. So I'm just going to run that. And again, these are my own action. Dodge is a curve layer and burn is a curve layer as well. It's better to use these layers. So when you dodge and burn, they are not, what's the term called? It's not permanent, destructible. It's non-destructive editing is what it is. This is. Instead of using the dodge and burn here from Photoshop, which is very destructive, once you do the edit using Photoshop tools, the burn and dodge, it is permanent. You know, there's no way going back. And once you dodge and burn, the edit again is permanent. It's destructive. That's the term. So in order to avoid that, we want to use these layers so we can always, if we overdo it, we can fix it. Okay, so I'm ready to go and edit. I'm just going to shrink all these so we can see the layers here. All right, so let's go here. Skin blush. I always like to add a bit of blush to everybody because a little blush helps. And again, this is from the Sandra Bianco's Retouching collection. So I usually have it at 16. That's usually what more my happy place is, but I think I can increase this one to about 20. And she looks pretty good there. Okay, so color balance. This is again, this is just an automatic color balance thing, and I have it adjusted as -2 in the reds and magenta -2. And again, that's just to compensate for sometime if I missed it in Adobe Photoshop, Adobe Camera Raw, that I would fix the magenta, the green and the yellow cast here. That looks pretty good. Okay, so levels is just a levels layer that's lightened by 1.13 and then 6 to add a bit of shadow. So it just brightens it up, give it a bit more airy feel to it. Hues and saturations, usually I do that for skin. So if I find that the skin is still oversaturated, this is what I use. So again, you see, once I click on this, it just lightens the skin a bit. So hue saturation is just red saturated -8. That's all it is. Okay, so contrast, that just came when I ran my highlights and shadow. Now highlights is basically, what adjustment is that? I think that is also a levels adjustment. Yes, it's a levels adjustment. So a bit levels brighten up and shadow darken. Very similar to the dodge and burn, but dodge and burn is curves. This one is levels. So I'll use highlight to just lighten her arms a bit. Soften that brush. So with the black mask, we use a white brush. Just lighten that arm. And there we go. Okay. There we go. And then it probably needs a bit more shadows. Now because, again, this is a little bit of backlighting happening here. Not too much. I generally like to add a bit of shadow in the jawline, just to give her a bit more there. That's quite nice there. Okay. And let's go right in here to see if we can erase any imperfections off of her using the Dust and Scratch. So Dust and Scratch, black mask, white brush. I'm going to zoom right in at 200 so you can see this in action. See how it just took off some of the speckles here? I mean, her skin is pretty flawless, and that just takes away some of the acne that she's got on her. Now, this is just a tool, right? It kind of does the same thing as portraiture, but sometimes it doesn't work as well. So when it doesn't work, we can use old-fashioned cloning, paintbrush healing. This is just fast for me. So when I do this, I don't have to, I can erase that hair. Look at that hair disappear. Fray hair here. I can even take it off here. Any sparkle fray hair here using the Dust and Scratch. And it's just easy, right? That's why I use it. And who doesn't want their workflow to be easy? Just some of that to come right out. Take that off. Any stray hair, just to lighten up, make it disappear a bit more. Take some of that off her arms. There we go. And help Mama doesn't, let Mama not feel so hairy here. Okay, looks good. I'm going to check her arm, take out any marks that could be distracting. And if there's any clothing item that needs to be, especially this works really well on black clothing, for example, if there's any lint, sometimes you get clients wearing black clothing and there's just lint all over the place, right? And you're like, ugh, like how am I going to get rid of that? Ew. So this will help a bit. Sometimes if it doesn't work, like this is not as good, I'll clone that out in a bit. But generally you look at this and she looks pretty good. And this is just the Dust and Scratch layer. Yeah, that, I don't know what that is, but got rid of that. Okay, she's still a little blotchy, we'll fix that later. Good, okay. And what I'm going to do is just merge that layer down because I'm going to do a bit of touch of liquefying. So to liquefy, I usually duplicate the background copy because just in case I muck up, I have something to go back to fix. All right, so here's liquefying, and well, actually, let me just clone something out here because this little thing is bugging me. Right there. Okay, I'm going to do a little bit of liquefying. Okay, so normally let's just fix that one up here. Where I use liquefying most often is the hair. So I like to puff up the hair just a bit. And here's this freeze mask tool. where I would freeze the flower because I don't want the flower to be affected when I change, when I just give a bit of volume to our hair. So we want to mask that. Okay, and then using the liquefying tool, just give her a little fuller hair. Okay. And there. And also to smooth any, because she's wearing underwear, and you just give a little bit of, so we just push up to smooth out her bum a bit. And then just very subtle improvement. Very subtle. Okay, she's just got this little chin here. I'm going to just, this little pocket of fat that she has here underneath the chin. I'm just going to take care of that for her. Okay, so be careful. We're not changing any jawline. We're just taking care. Okay, she looks pretty good. So, click OK there. Okay, so see this little spot here that from the liquefying. So this is where I would add a mask, right? And then get a brush and fix that by with a black brush. So what happens? It erases it, and then takes from the bottom layer. There we go. So here's before the liquefy, and here's after liquefy. So I'm just going to merge that down so I could fix that hair here so it doesn't look like there's a double, using the cloning tool. Okay, make the brush a little smaller. Okay, that's good. Okay. Using a patch tool. Just getting rid of that speckle there. Okay, so now just using the dodge and burn here, I am going to add I'm going to dodge a bit more of her arm just to even out her. She was darker in the arm here. So using this brush, now dodge and burn is a curve layer, and how I set that up, I'll just show you the properties here. Okay, so it's a curve layer. It's very dark, right? That's a curve layer for the dodge. The burn layer, the other one, it goes the other way. So this is where it's dark, sorry. And then the dodge part is up high. The curve is higher. Excuse me. So in order to use the dodge and burn, we have to be very easy on the brush. So with the brush, white, because we're on a black mask, we want to decrease the flow to about 1%. That's very important. And this is where I'm then going to dodge and burn anywhere where I need it. Like for example here, I think she could use a bit of shadow here. So I just add a bit of shadow here and it smoothed out her jawline. Okay, so very gentle, just very lightly. And that's usually normal with how I do it. Dodging here, just takes out that shadow. Sorry, just gonna do it slowly here. Just take that shadow right out. And then around the armpit too, smooth that right out. And she's got, now I don't know whether you can tell, but she's just got a slight bikini line here. Because this was shot during the summer. And I'm just gonna burn that. So it's a bit more hidden. Just smooth out her skin a bit. There we go. And again, very light, 1%, it's very subtle. Okay, and normally with dodging, I also take out any, this is where I would take out any, or not take out per se, but lighten any wrinkles. Soften up the facial feature. I also use this to darken eyebrows, darken lashes. So either the dodge or burn, you can use accordingly. Here's the eyebrow, or not the eyebrow, the eyelash. Just gonna darken, give her a bit more of a mascara. Okay, and then also the eyebrow. Again, using the burn tool. Not the burn tool, sorry. The burn layer here. Now, yeah, I probably do a bit more work than most photographers in terms of retouching the face, but I'm in the business of making mamas beautiful, so I do touch a bit. I take a bit more care in just retouching them. So any blotches in the face, take care of that usually with a dodging tool. If not with the dodging, certainly with patch tool. So let me just go take care of that. Okay, I'm going to flatten first. Patch tool. Okay, so often I would do the dodge and burn tool pretty often. I go back to that quite a bit. Oops, I don't know what happened there. So dodge and burn, run my own. This is my own action once again. So just gonna, I think I overdid a little bit of her cheek, so I'm just gonna add that back with a slight burn at 1%. And we'll just darken her eyes a little bit. Add a bit of a smoky look to it. Okay, she looks very good. Okay, so the other artistic edit I do is just changing the color of the bush to just to bring out the pink in the sky. So usually I do that with the hues layer. This is where I actually hand edit at this point. Using this little hand tool here, pick out the color I want to change. Right here. Okay, so Photoshop says it's yellow, and what I'm going to do is just bring this all the way to the end, and these are the color that Photoshop shows me where the color is going to be affected. So what I'm going to do here is I only want the bushes here to be affected, the dark blue area and the green area, not on her skin. So I'm going to make sure that doesn't happen by coming down here and moving this. Okay, so moving this so I can see some of the skin. See how the skin get restored? That means whatever adjustment I make to the hues layer is not going to affect the skin. There we go. Or the sky. See, all this got restored. So when I change the color, all this is going to be affected only. All right, so I'm going to bring that to 0. Okay, and then I'm going to change this. Now this gets really kind of artistic at this point. It's in the eye. Right, I'm looking for sort of a soft lavender, pinkish purple look. So I'm going to see if I can find that color just by eyeballing at this point. So doing this, changing, so I'm getting a bit more purple look to this. See how it changes all that? And then about 40, maybe around here. And then the saturation, let's reduce that to about, let's say about 35. And the color, and let me see if I can get any more of that color. So it's starting to look a bit more purple the way I want it to be. So about here. Okay, this is not bad. So what I'm going to start from here, and I'm going to invert the mask to black, so then I can use the brush with a white brush and paint back the colors where I want it to be. Now remember, the flow has to be about 100. We were using 1% for the dodge and burn, but now we're back to full flow. We can then start painting where we want. We can even lighten the opacity too as well. And I am adding a very floral look to these yucky green and bush, giving it more of a feminine look, feminine color. Right, so there we go. I'm going to add a little bit here. I'm going to adjust the opacity because I don't want too purple. That's probably a bit too much. So let's bring it down a little bit more and do this. Again, a little less. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to add pink haze to this. So we can do it manually, or I just use this layer here called the pink gold haze. Where I got that from is the Portrait Pizzazz, portraitpizzazz.com. Their Sublime collection. The Phenom Action Collection, I believe in that collection there is a Sublime collection, and then you can go into that and pull out your pink haze. So I will go ahead and do that. Oops, pink haze right here. So this is from the Sublime collection from Portrait Pizzazz. So what I'm going to do is pull that over my image here. Okay, and it's just running here now. And see how pretty it is? It kind of gives this pink haze look over it. Okay, so we want to reduce that a bit, just to give it a nice sort of a dreamy look. I will duplicate that, and I'm going to use this and multiply this one. Okay, so I multiplied this one. I only want it to affect the sky, really. So I'm going to put a mask on this, invert it to a black mask, and use a white brush and just paint the sky a bit more pink. Full size, full opacity, full flow. And there's that pink sky again. It's giving me a bit of pink. Very pastel look to it. Okay, I'm going to add a pink into this bush. Now this one here is light pink. It's a bit much actually, so I'm just going to reduce opacity and I'm going to erase some of that off of her. So I'm going to add a white mask, invert it. So to invert it, Control I to invert that. Actually, no, I don't need to do that. I need a white mask and I'm going to use a black brush, black brush to brush it off of her. And we'll start slightly here with a lower opacity. Just going to brush that right off of her. Okay, so I'm back to the burn tool because I realized there's some highlights that I like to burn down a bit more. So this one would be full opacity, flow. Instead of 1, I'd like to be a bit faster at 5%. So using the burn layer here, I'm going to burn some of the highlights on her hair so it's not as distracting. All right. Okay, and I just keep brushing and burning until I see the desired effect that I want. Okay. Oh, that probably be a little bit much here on the burn. So I only want to burn the highlights, so not part of her hair. Okay, so there it is. I consider this done. So this is the image. I will save this actually. Save as, so we don't lose this. 7411. And I'm going to pull the original one out. So open that. So we went from this before to this edit after. So here, that's my edit for Pastel Soft Pink. Okay, so thank you very much for joining me, spending time with me. Here's a before and after. I do offer workshops if you want to learn more about my editing procedures or process, how I photograph a maternity straight out of the camera. You're welcome to visit www.edenvalphotography.com, maternity newborn workshops. So thank you so much, and I hope to see you guys, or hope to hear from you guys and speak to you guys soon. It's Eden Val. We're signing off. Thank you.